just like that, it's Jazz Hands Wednesday Night Tech Talk Live, brought to you by WAF Racing.
Just WAF Racing. Yeah, I was up there at Wozniak's this weekend. It was awesome, man.
Yeah, well, I heard there was quite a few of the viewers in there as well.
Yeah. I saw Buff. I saw Kim, and Dizzy showed up and did a pretty awesome burnout with his little car there. So, in fact, I'm going to be dropping a video of it probably Friday or Saturday of the whole drive up there and all the little shenanigans that happened there. So,
well, I suck as a YouTuber. I haven't dropped any videos in like a while. The last ones I was doing was like Mad Scientist Monday.
But you know what the thing is, though, is that if it's not fun, it's not worth doing it. I've told you guys this before. I don't care to be a YouTuber. I'm not that person.
I know.
If it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. So it hasn't been fun, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, well, right now I'm just doing a bunch of mundane stuff, but I need to get a video up because I have been working on that 63 Buick, and that's probably my most popular project that I've been working on that people ask about all the time.
Yeah.
That little 63 Buick. So I need to do some videos on it. But I guess to kick this thing off from the top, what's up?
I was going to say, did you see? I sent you a tracking number. You're going to be getting some upper control arms here soon.
Oh, sweet. Well, what's that through?
I sent it to your plumber.
Yeah, no, I got that. What's the tracking number for? It doesn't say. It just says the number.
Yeah, copy and paste it, put it into Google, and it comes right up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sweet. If I don't get them within a few days, I'll probably do that.
Right.
Yeah. So to kick things off from the top, SSR Performance was here at 523 Triple Crown Bandit in the house. There, I guess the first official 6-second pass for a Triple Crown is by SSR Performance, and now they're the Bandit. Yeah. Paul Pahui was here, Bruce Coltgen, Mohawk 62, Fab Race Mod repeat hello from the Speed Oasis headquarters. Buff Del Campo is here, Colleen Tebow, Hot Rod Guy Garage Russell, Levi's Backyard Performance, Bigfoots and Mopars Mark. Let's see. Andrew Nelson is here. Good evening, gang. Mean Street Mopar is here. What's up, everyone? And I think that's really it. Oh, Slant Day the Garage snuck in here at the bottom. And so did Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. Howdy, folks. Howdy, Andy. It's good to have you in the house.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I did an adventure this weekend. I had Wyatt up until Sunday, so I dropped him off at his mom's, and then I drove up to Portland, Indiana, to the home of Mosier Engineering.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I got my axles splined further down, and they actually fit in the rear end now. So I got one of them in there. I got to put the other one in. I was busy trying to work on. I had to make myself an emergency brake cable, and I took two and made one. So it seemed to work out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We'll see how functional they are. I'm sure it's going to break.
So how long did that actually take? So they did it while you waited, right?
Yeah, it took like less than 2 hours, I guess. Oh. I don't know that. Like I dropped them off at 8. I was the first one there. They called me by like 9:30, and then I went and picked them up and hit the road.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But that place is actually really accommodating. It's not as big as what you'd think it would be, but it does look nice.
Yeah.
So, let's see.
Is it worth the trip? Is it like worth going up there and just kind of doing like a video and?
Not really. It's like, you know how Crowder was the first time you went there. You were like, ooh, and then you're like, man, there's like 3 lathes in here, and that's about it. And there's people back there running a lathe while making a camshaft while eating a sandwich, and you're like, this is it. But I guess that's all it really needs to be.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And so it's like there was a little bit more to Crowder than that. I mean, that was literally Schneider.
Yeah, so right, exactly. It's literally like, just I don't know, man.
Well, Crowder. Okay, I kind of misled everybody on what Crowder really was. When I went in there, they do have that 1 or 2 lathes, whatever, right up front, right? Mm-hmm. But then they got a whole 5-axis CNC machine doing connecting rods and crankshafts. And then there is a whole part of the building which I couldn't go in because it was all top fuel clutches.
Yes.
and so they wouldn't let anybody in there.
Just
Right?
only because there was some very top secret stuff in there that a lot of
Sure,
stuff was
I'm not John Force, so I mean, what do I need to be looking at clutches for?
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, because I
yeah,
remember it'd be like going to Mecca. You know what I mean? Like when you think you're going to Crower or going to go to like Comp or Edelbrock or even Mosier, you're like, I'm going to Mecca. Like I'm going to be. You know what I mean?
yep. And then when you get there, you're like, oh man, it's really just a man behind the curtain.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's the Oz effect, right?
yeah, and that's exactly what it is. That's why I like, I really do like Schneider cams just from the ambiance of the whole thing because
Yeah,
it's literally like there's like two guys in the back with an old school 40 style lathe, and you just walk up to the window like I'm gonna go get some Burger King, but you go to this window and you're like, hey, I want this cam, and the dude turns and is like, hey,
yeah,
uh, Juan, go ahead and grind number 643172.
right.
And then you're like, wow. And then you wait, like he says, yeah, come back in a couple hours. Okay. You go down and get a big burrito, sit on the corner eating that thing, and then walk back up there and bang, your camshaft's ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it was. It's true.
Yeah. But well, okay, so we don't have any questions yet tonight, which I'm surprised.
Well, I'll talk about Waz real quick, man. So,
Okay.
if you go to Waz Racing, you guys should make the pilgrimage at some point to go check that place out because it's kind of like not just a place, but it's a hangout. He has like couches and he's got like guitars, and he's like, man, you got to need to bring a drum set up here next time because it's like he's got plenty of space for it, and it's a really cool spot. And what's nice about it is it's kind of a drive through. So I was telling them, I was like, look, you need to be a destination on like a drag and drive because people can come through, then they can literally drive right through the building and do a picture inside the building. It'd be cool. It'd be really cool.
Huh. Well, I think it would be really nice to just go up there and kind of like have a hot rod hangout weekend, That would be
Oh
pretty
yeah.
cool. So
And he's
KS,
always up there. He's always got something going on. He just got that GTO, the white one going, and he's going to work on something else. So
all right. Well, KS Skyhawk says, what is the seatbelt criteria for a car like the Skyhawk at the No Name Nationals or anywhere else? Is the manufacturer date, some certification organization's blessing, or general condition of the seatbelt? Okay, to answer your question about belts, generally you can run the factory belt regardless of how old it is, as long as it looks like it's in decent condition. It's not frayed and falling apart. This is where I have the sticking point with the SFI about seat belts is because you could run that if you ran a 9 or if you ran a 10 flat, you can run a stock seat belt from 1960, right?
yeah,
And it could be look decent condition, but
he's
be
7 years old.
70 years old.
Yep.
The next step in that whole thing is if you run a 999 in the quarter mile, you now have to have a 5-point harness with a seatbelt that's certified every 2 or 3 years. Or if you decide to take your stock seatbelts out and put that 5-point harness in your 7-second car in 8th mile, you're now under the subject of that criteria.
Every 2 years. Yep.
Yeah. And it absolutely sucks because there's like no in between. And what I really didn't like about it was, easy it is to go 999 these days. It's like pretty simple.
Yep.
You open up the Summit catalog, you order the gnarliest thing they got for whatever your car is, and then you drop it in, you go to the track, it'll run 999 or better. That used to be a very difficult to attain number.
Nowadays, though, you just literally you can get an LS or you can even just get a Hellcat engine, literally put it in anything that weighs 3,000 pounds, and you're doing close to the 8 seconds at that point. So it's super simple. I agree.
Yeah, and that's the thing I didn't like was for the person that comes to the track once a year, was it worth throwing them out over a seatbelt? That like there was no grace, there was no gray area, and there was no grace on that freaking seatbelt criteria if you had the 5-point harness.
Yep.
Right. You had to do the certification. And so there should have been like a gray area there for somebody that just has a nice old muscle car that doesn't want to put a 5-point harness in it. you know, like, I don't know. I have no idea what the grace period should be, but I don't think that the certification every 2 years should apply to that guy.
Yeah. And also, too, that's where I hate that, too, is that my seatbelts in my car were not long enough to go around the new belt because they came through the seat, right? So now to
Uh-huh.
go around the plastic to come in there, the factory ones weren't long enough. So I had to put belts in it. And even when my car was running 13 seconds, or even that, I had to keep changing the belts constantly to go to Carlsbad because it was an NHRA track. So it just sucked. I totally am with you on that.
And so John saying it, what does the Skyhawk? I doubt it's going to be fast enough to require a belt because 999 is like 640s in the 8th mile. So he's probably running in the 7s or 8s, I would assume.
And James is correct. You can get a showroom floor car that runs 9s nowadays.
Yeah, and that's what's ridiculous is like there is no overlap on that stupid seatbelt rule, and I would try to fight it every year, and the SFI was, we're not going to hear anything about it. I said, well, okay. And they said it's for worst case scenario. Okay, it's worst case scenario. Somebody's got an open cockpit roadster or an altered that they leave outside on the trailer and the birds shit all over the seat belts and the sun just beats them to death. But then the stock car guy has no criteria and his shit sits outside like that all the time.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And it's like you would try to bring these things that were logical up and you would end up having to fight the system because the system is in it to make money. And they make that criteria because they're in bed with Simpson Racing Products and whoever makes the seat belts, and they're getting a kickback from them.
John brings up a good point here because he's like, most people worry about cage certs, cars aren't quick enough to require them. Then they overlook the hold downs, the battery hold downs, disconnect switches, overload bottom, drive cuff loops, and wheel studs. All that. I'm telling you right now, how many people I've seen not go down the track because of wheel studs or a wheel nut or just the battery hold down is not adequate enough. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and those are the things. It's like, think about this. All right, the battery hold down, such a simple device. What is it doing? Why do they require it? Okay, and the idea is this: you're thinking it's for a rollover, so it doesn't fling the battery. And there's 50-pound batteries flying around, right? Sure. But when you launch the car and it shudders and shakes and it throws that battery up against the hood and welds itself to the hood, what do you do at that point?
Yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah, and it's like those are the things that's kind of common sense that people don't understand the why, the how comes. And what I had to used to say when I was doing the AHRA, every day, was most of those rules are written in blood, right? Someone had to die or really get hurt for that to become a rule.
Mm-hmm.
And there was certain ones that I felt were like more like a money grab, like the seatbelt was a money grab deal, right? Because if you had a 5-point harness, you had to do that every 2 years. But if you had some scungy ass seatbelt that you drug out of the junkyard that still is in pretty decent looking condition, you're ready to run that sucker for 70 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Mohawk 62 says he still has a factory seatbelt in his Scamp, and he only runs mid-8s and 8s. So that's perfect.
Yeah. Racer Ray says seatbelts. I have stock replacement type in the car, not SFI rated. I'm to change them. No, you don't have to change them unless you run faster than a certain ET, and that ET is I think put it at 640 in the 8th mile.
640, unless you change them before that, then you have to change them every 2 years.
Yeah. So KS Skyhawk is saying my belts are 50 years old. They look it. Does anybody redo my old ones? Like new webbing resewn into my factory stuff. Classic Industries will sell you some new ones.
Yeah.
I don't think that they re-web belts anymore. And I think a lot of that was because of the responsibility of it, right? Like if you pop the stitches on it and you put a whole new nylon piece in there, right? And you don't sew it back together correctly and you get an accident and die. Now the person that's sewn that back together is responsible.
There's still a company that I believe, if they still do it, but Auto Power in California, I sent
Well, factory seatbelts?
They do seatbelts. Yeah. They'll put their seatbelt material on it and they'll stitch it up and use your factory stuff. And they'll do that with any of them. And then they certify them too. They'll even put a recert on them. So I've sent them back many belts. Now it's not worth it now where I live because of the shipping costs back and forth. But when you could actually drive right up and drop them on their table and come back a week later and pick them up, it was worth it.
Huh. So, okay. Tom Brown says, okay, guys, what's the best routine to flush out milky antifreeze laden oil out of an engine? And can we flush using the priming tool? That's, I tried this with, a few years ago, I built an engine for a guy down in Florida I called it Jack the Giant Killer. It was a 300 cubic inch Buick. And he put it in the car and, you know, I said, well, first we broke it in here. He took it home. He was all happy. Everything was great. Blew the tranny up, twisted the drive shaft out of it. Couple of things. And then he put a new tranny in, got a new drive shaft made. And then one day he went to go take it to the track and he's like, oh, it's low on water. So he just poured a couple more gallons in it. Gallons being the key word. Like, oh, wonder where that went. And, it had somehow pulled the threads on the cylinder head around the water port on the back of the cylinder head. And anyway, to make a long story short, it filled the engine full of water. And then he was like, well, what do I do? And I said, the only real answer to that is take the engine out and bring it up here to my place and I'll go through the thing. Oh, no, I don't have the money for that. And okay, well, then the only other option is this. And here's the sad part is he started it up with the water and he noticed it had 0 oil pressure. So he shut it off. Right. Well, he called and he didn't have the money for it. So what do? I said, there's only one other thing you can do. If you want to continue to run it without taking it out is you've got to flush it out with motor oil. And that's what I had him do. I mean, we went through, I don't know, probably 24 quarts of oil, and we would pour the oil in. We drained everything out of it, pour the oil in, ran the priming tool for like 20 minutes on a plug-in electric gyro, and then turn the motor over like 90 degrees every 90 degrees and try to flush as much water out of it as possible. Because an engine, let's face it, it will get some oil or some water in the oil by condensation when it cools off, especially in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. Oil is hydroscopic and it will pull the moisture out of the air and collect in the motor oil. And anyway, we flushed it through there, a bunch of quarts of oil, and he was so cheap. He's like, oh, I wonder if I can separate that. Look, man, just go pour that stuff at the O'Reilly's and be done with it. Yeah. Right. And I mean, there was a lot of water coming out of there. And I mean, a lot. You'd have 2 inches of water on top of the oil, right? Or do I get that right? Maybe 2 inches of water at the bottom of the oil. Yeah. But it had a lot of water come out of it when we did it the first couple of times. And then finally it was coming out clean and it seemed to turn over okay. And I'm like, all right, we'll fire it up. Well, it was not happy afterwards. And I imagine it probably was a bearing.
Yeah.
But who knows? It could have been a lifter or something. I don't know. But he ran it with water in the pan, right? So the sucky part about the water in the pan is generally the water settles at the bottom. So when you start them up, the first thing it sucks up is the water.
Yeah, it flushes out all the oil, and you go metal to metal, and then the bearing, the oil comes in. Now you've got a big, loose journal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've actually had this. I actually had a guy who came over, blew head gasket, and he had like 4 inches of water in the thing. We drained it out, and what I did is it was actually in small block Mopar, but he never ran it. So then what I did is I drained it and I put in diesel oil into it, and actual diesel. I ran the primer on it and then ran the old filter in there. Then I put a new filter on it, ran the diesel again, drained all the diesel out, put new fresh oil in it, and then started it up and got it hot. And I kept the caps off of it because then you could just see the steam. and let
Yeah.
it breathe. And then literally just sitting there idling, and it looked a little milky. And then I just said, just drive it for a while, because he had to drive all the way back down to downtown San Diego. He drove all the way down there. I said, put the caps back on it. And then when he drove back the next day, it was all clean, because just the heat of running it just burned out all that moisture out of it. So,
Yeah. And I think, that's really the one thing you can probably put diesel fuel in there, or automatic transmission fluid probably wouldn't be bad either.
yeah. Well, diesel fuel was cheaper.
Oh, cheap. That's way cheap. I didn't think about that, but we ended up just doing the oil, and I had them get like a real light grade, like 010 or whatever it is, so that we could push everything out. Because I needed to get it in every crevice, but it ended up tearing it up after that. And then he was like, "Hey, man, what do you want? What are you going to rebuild me a new motor?" And I'm like, "No, dude. I mean, I gave you that option to begin with, and you didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, too bad."
So Mohawk 62's got one here. We're getting close to September. You might want to go over the helmet rules for the new people too. So
I'll let Deke do that on the actual. John has a annual safety and tech inspection meeting with Deke, because I'm not going to waste my time on Wednesday night tech talk with that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, it's like, it's not September. John has one set aside specifically for that.
Exactly.
And we'll let him tackle it. But
yeah, so go over there, John Wilburn, on John Wilburn's channel, and then go see him on this Friday at 7 Central, and he'll tell you something when that happens. But yeah, so, or you can even post it here in the notes if he wants to in the chat.
Vintage Adventure Drive says, Deke let the factory seatbelts in my satellite go down the track. They're original and have a few frays. Look, man, you drove from where? Oklahoma? Do you think Deke wanted to send you back to your house because of a few frayed seatbelt pieces? That's generally Deke's call. That's what he has to do. That's what he's there for, right? He's probably more than happy that you had a seatbelt. And he's not going to send you home for just that seatbelt. He knew you came a long way. All right, man, you got some frays on the seatbelt. That means if you come back the following year, he doesn't want to see that same seatbelt.
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually, here's what Skyhawk saying that I did a quick inquiry and found a couple seatbelt rebuilders. Single stage starts at $79. So there you go.
Yeah.
Mohawk 62, since we were, this one right here. Clayton's Toolbox is saying, I was thinking of towing my car hauler with my nice 1974 Ecoline E300 motorhome. It's a 1-ton with dualies, but it's quite underpowered with a 302 and a C4. Do you think the C4 Shiny will last? Absolutely not. It may last there. It may last home, but it's not going to, it's going to be, I'm just telling you from my point of view, I don't think a C4 is built for kind of doing that. It's not really as the strongest for that.
I'll say some logic here. I'll throw some logic out. That sucker's probably been in there since 1974.
Yes.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, it's been there since 1974.
Is he going up a hill with it?
Who knows? But I'm thinking that it's lasted since 1974. That's 52 years with a C4. I think it's probably going to be fine. Now I know that a 302 in a just a half-ton truck is a turd. That's got to be the worst.
Yeah.
It's E300 motorhome. That thing has got to weigh 5,800 pounds. I guess with a lot of gear, that 302 would do it because it'll spin to the moon.
But that's exactly what I was saying. Why no is because you'd be going from third to second, second back to third, third to second, second back to third. And I just know that those C4s just don't like that top gear. They don't like direct drive.
They don't like shifting between second and third gear. That's the big one on them.
Yep, exactly.
Once they get into third gear, if that thing's got like 456 gears in it or whatever, that 302 will sit there and turn 4,000 all day long and not even sweat it.
Yeah.
But Mexican Spec says 24 quarts of oil is expensive these days. It is, but you know what's more expensive? A whole new motor.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what we didn't want to do, so we ended up with what it was.
When you don't know how to do it and you're paying someone else to do it, right? For your own stupid mistakes. So, yeah. James is saying, how about The dirt track. I say the finals of Triple Crown is ran on the dirt. That'd be something.
Paddle tires, huh? I wonder what that is all about. I'm kind of curious. I'd like to talk to Possum and see what he's thinking, but I have no idea what that's all about. I'm sure that's some kind of new entry road or something.
Yeah. I just think it'd be awesome to just have some drag racing, some, dirt, drag racing right there, 100 foot, just monkey bike. That would be awesome.
Maybe that's an IHRA thing. Maybe they're doing dirt drags now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That'd be good.
Mostly old Ports Ron Ward right below that is saying that, hi guys, is there really an advantage to running a slick tire on a wider wheel than the tread with example 10.5-inch tires on a 12-inch wide rim?
Yes.
There is.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not. That's my T-Bird is, what did I ran a 30x9 slick and I had a 10-inch wide wheel. And the whole point of that was to stretch that 9-inch tire out so I got the entire 9 inches of contact patch.
Yep.
Otherwise, they cup, right? They actually bulge in the center.
Yep. And you have to take more air out to get the full contact patch on it.
Yep. There is an advantage to it.
Yeah. And if you see a lot of guys running the 28-1050 class, they'll actually have those on sometimes 13 or even 14-inch rims for that exact reason, to stretch it out. And it puts a bigger footprint down. It just allows it to make the footprint.
Right. It gives you the entire contact patch instead of the cupping it's got.
Yeah. See, here we go. 90% of the tech questions are the same every year. The tech passes lives with Deke are helpful to cover your bases. If it's a one-off question, just email me your picks or your questions. So there you go. Yeah.
Well, okay. So Mohawk saying, okay, sounds good. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack the show. You weren't hijacking the show.
No.
Okay. Do you know how many times a year I get asked questions about a freaking battery hold down or a shutoff switch or lug nuts or overflow tank? I bet you 642,000 times.
And then when they go to you, they come to me. Same thing.
The reason why I did not want to do it is because there's an entire show dedicated to it. And you weren't hijacking the show. Okay, I'll tell you this philosophy. I've told John this before. There's this philosophy I have that I learned in the Navy called the good idea fairy. Okay? The good idea fairy is the same guy in your division that always wants to have a safety briefing while you're drawing on a whiteboard, right? Wants to have you can't over have too many safety meetings. No, you can't. I could literally have shows all year long about talking about battery hold downs and lug nuts, right? I get mad when there's good idea fairies thrown out there because this might be the one show that you hear it on, but it's happening every year, right? Like every year there's a show dedicated specifically to safety requirements of going down the track. And then it would literally shift the entire focus from Wednesday night tech talk to Wednesday night track safety. And I'm not even running the AHRA anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so the good idea fairy was shut down because I have the ability to do that.
Hey, since we have some people in here now, I wanted to make it a quick announcement before we go any further. If you have a vehicle that can handle nitrous and can handle 2 stages of nitrous or a single stage, and you are willing to try some new products, and you would have no problem signing an NDA, and your vehicle can handle it, it's not a person who's like, I want a running car that's someone who's a driver, someone who can handle this kind of stuff. But we're looking for someone who wants to test out some nitrous stuff. If you think you can fit that, email me, spolito@edelbrock.com. You're going to have to sign an NDA and whatnot. But we're looking for a vehicle that runs currently right now, that you have time slips, a setup vehicle, that you have safety cages that we know, and something, in the 7s or the 6s before nitrous, and then run some data, so that way we can tell you, hey, you're going to run this system and then this system and see what you do, and then basically turn you loose and see what you like on it, and then you'll get to keep the system after that. So if that sounds interesting to you, spolito@edelbrock.com.
Ron Moore brings up a good point here. I've never seen a motorhome with a C4. Are you sure it's not a small block C6? Which
Yes.
they are. They were actually very common in the trucks.
Yeah.
So I bet you that is a C6. Those things they won't have a problem towing that at all. It's just like the Ford version of the Turbo 400.
Yeah, or the 727. I'm telling you right now, I'm with Ward on Ron on this one, 100%. I don't believe it's a C4 and something that's a motorhome like that at all. So yeah, that's
And you're
just
right. They don't like, even from the factory, they don't like going from 2 to 3.
nope. They don't, or even going from 3 to 2. They don't. That's what they really don't like. Is it's not 2 to 3 under load. It's really when you're under load at 3 and it starts dogging down, and then it shifts down to 2. Man, they just don't like that at all.
Well, it's that flare up, and I believe it's the way the clutches are applied in there.
And the band, yeah,
Is it the band that stops the drum? Okay, it doesn't like that, huh?
doesn't like that.
Okay, well,
Oh, Dizzy's here. Hey, Dizzy. Hey, I got a video of your burnout. Stand with the lady right there. You'll be able to see it on the video that I'm going to be releasing on Saturday of my whole drive and all the shenanigans that happened. So your burnout's going to be in there. So come and check it out.
let's see. Clayton's Toolbox says it's the older generation Econoline 69 to 74. They had a 6-banger or 302, 3 on the tree, or C4. Not many options. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Let's see, seatbelts. Let me go. Oh, there it is. I didn't. That's the first time I've honestly. 3 tree C4, huh?
Okay. Mopars, Mustangs, and minivans. Since the mini bikes may be dirt this year, suspension rule changes. No, I think that was more or less a joke. He put a picture up. Okay, so he's talking about the monkey bikes, and in relation to that dirt track that Ryan Roberts was talking about, that he just posted that on Facebook, making a joke about it, saying monkey bikes on this dirt track. I don't think that's the case at all. It was more or less just like him making a funny post.
Let's see here. Right. So how do you need a car, Shane? Or just something that you own that you would just need to run our product on? Ron says he loves them too. My car will run 6s through the first 60 feet. Will that count? Oh, that's funny.
Let's see here. Okay.
Yeah, Tom Brown, is there any situation where you could put nitrous on the engine with hypertonic pistons? I used to do it all the time.
Sure. 125 shots, not even a problem. Even up to like 150, you're going to be fine.
I've done now. If your tune-up is spot on. I've done it with 250, but it has to be spot on, and I run it just a slight bit fat, and I keep the extra degree out of it of timing, and it should survive. And it really comes down to if you have, like, say, a Ford and you got really short rods, I wouldn't tend to recommend it because of the side loading of the pistons. If you've got really long rods, it should survive just fine. But I'm with Dallas on this. If you don't know, 150 easily, it'll be fine.
Yeah, just don't detonate it and don't lean it out
or lug it.
Pistons are unforgiving
because they when those things go, they shatter, and they're basically little microscopic pieces. And
the bigger the bore, the more prone to breaking they are. Yeah. So that's what I've found. But here's I'll throw this out there: stock LSs that guys are pulling out of the junkyards came with hyper-eutectic pistons. And they're putting a turbo on them or a bunch of nitrous on them and going to track. And they'll handle it no problem. The Explorer engine used to be the big takeout, was out of the Fords, and they had hyper-eutectic pistons in them. But I have leaned those out, and I got lucky. I broke a piston, and it only broke at the top ring gland. Just like it peeled like half the piston, like a half moon right out of the top of the piston. And then it just clattered in the cylinder. It didn't do anything. It was too big to get out of there.
You know what's funny? Ron Word saw this. It said Wednesday night tech talk lie.
That would be perfect for like a Wednesday night tech talk lie on April the 1st. And then just like you're talking about the whole show, you're like, I've changed out the radiator on my Volkswagen Bug,
What's funny is that I had typed that in and hit enter, and you go down to the thing, and then I was like, oh shit, and it had already posted. I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to go back and mess with it. It's over with. So, whatever. People will get over it.
Oh, Ron Ward says, had a 125 shot on a hyper-eutectic piston and a 440 Demon, went from 1245 at 108 to 1133 at 122 on the sauce with zero issues. If you got it close, it's going to run good.
Yeah, and 440s really will absorb a lot of nitrous just because of how long that rod is. And it's a big bore with a short stroke. So it just has no problem eating that up. And that's really the reason why I love that 400. That was my very first nitrous car engine. I wish I would have messed up on the small blocks first, because that 400 just absorbed all my mistakes that I didn't know. And then when I went to a small block, all the stuff that I thought worked was just blowing the crank out of the small block. I'm like, wow, that's how much better the 400 is than these small blocks.
Yeah, I really think that those 400 engines, like the 400 Mopar and the 400 Ford, and they just came at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Right. They were probably in development during the greatest muscle car era. And then all of a sudden, boom, smog hits you hard. Right. Yeah. And then, so they just neutered the crap out of the engines to make them work with that 87 octane unleaded gas. And, the 400 Chevrolet, it kind of stayed in its own for a long time. They were always bad. The story that I always heard was they overheated a lot, and that's because there was so little cylinder wall to act as a heat sink.
Mm-hmm.
But the Chevrolet small block is inherently heavy. It's overbuilt.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's really the truth. I know that the 400s had a weird steam hole thing that the other small blocks did not, that allowed it to pass water through the top of the head.
It's because of the Siamese bore. The two cylinders.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, Siamese bore, and then they had to drill little holes to let the steam out on the bottom side of the piston.
Because it wouldn't circulate around the cylinder wall.
It wouldn't circulate because it would build the steam right there, because it couldn't get through there. So you drill a little hole there to get the steam out.
Gotcha. So that probably was an issue with the 400 small block Chevy.
Yeah, anything Siamese bore, if it's Siamese bore with a dimple, that spot right there is going to get an air pocket. It's going to have one right there, because it just can't get out unless you drill a hole and steam it out.
Huh.
Levi's saying, Shane, I'm guessing you want a carb engine. Absolutely. That's really what I'm looking for, is something that's a carb engine, somebody who's got experience with nitrous, or, is willing to try, because this is going to be kind of for an advanced kit. I'm not saying like super advanced, but someone who's, used to racing with nitrous before. This is for you.
Yeah, Dallas, are the pistons used in Clint's 300 hyper-eutectic? They are later model 3.8 liter V6 Ford pistons that are hyper-eutectic. But the reason why I went to those was they had a coated skirt, and then they had the thin metric rings. So it's got like a 1.2 millimeter ring on them.
Yeah,
which is absolutely killer for parasitic loss. When you're talking a 5/16 cast iron ring compared to a Moly 1.2 millimeter, huge power difference, probably 10 to 15% better.
Dizzy's saying here, Ron, I put a 150 shot on a new dual plane. I haven't used it, but the intake made a huge difference. Now, here's the thing, is if you're going to run nitrous on a dual plane, you can, but typically what I tell people to do is that if they're going to have an intake manifold, usually put the nitrous plate, a 1-inch spacer, and the carburetor. In an incident of a dual plane, I will tell people, this is just my preference, I'll flip them. So that way you'll have a 1-inch spacer, the nitrous plate, then put the carburetor right on top of it.
I think that spacer, and you're talking a 1-inch open spacer, right?
Yes, 1-inch open spacer.
I think that plenum volume helps even out the distribution of the dual plane, because you technically on a dual plane, you have two separate carb signals, right? Yep. And that's what screws up the nitrous distribution, is the two separate carb signals, because it will pull harder on one side than it will the other. But when you put that spacer in there, it creates an open volume directly below the carburetor for the fuel and nitrous to atomize and then kind of get distributed evenly.
Yeah, so that's why I always say you run a spacer, nitrous plate, and then if you can run another half-inch spacer, I personally just don't like having the carburetor touch the nitrous plates, just my own personal thing. Or you could just get a really thick gasket and put that on between it, and you'll be fine. But that's if you're going to do dual plane, and I've ran 150 shot with a dual plane and had no problems at all.
So mostly old parts. Ron Ward says things guys don't know about nitrous number 17. Load the engine with a low numerical gear ratio and let the torque do the work. I ran 355 gears.
Absolutely.
That is the perfect nitrous gear. And if you're doing, let's say, if you're doing if you're running a 3-speed and you're doing a 2-stage system, you can get away with lower gears because the numerically lower the gear, the higher the trap speed and the more it pulls.
Because it's all torque. The nitrous is literally all torque. It's not horsepower because it's spraying an X amount of air or of oxygen and fuel. So at a lower RPM, that's going to make the most amount. And the higher the RPM, it's going to dramatically fall off. Obviously, horsepower is going to go up. So you want to load that thing.
Well, so the easiest way to explain it is with nitrous oxide. When you add nitrous oxide, all it does is take the engine that you already have. If you have a graph for that engine, it's literally going to shift it up, and everything about the engine is going to be exacerbated. It's going to be bigger or more abrupt, right? Mm-hmm. So if you got a peak at say 5,200 and it noses over, it's going to really nose over at 5,200 on the nitrous.
Yeah,
it'll be like you feel a 200 shot difference in loss, right? And so everything's compounded, and that's what I like about it because it's predictable in that way. The downside is when you load it hard with gears like that and you don't get the right tranny or converter combo, you detonate it and you freaking launch the motor out the bottom of the pan.
And that's why on the Cookie Monster, I've got 410 gears with a 1.8 first gear. So if you do that math, that thing's leaving, on a 28 tire, but it's because I'm loading it so much with nitrous out of the hole because I'm using all that torque, and that's what's accelerating it. Typically, actually, my car would actually be faster, probably with the 373 or maybe even a 350 gear with that gear, because I could come out of the hole with a 150 shot and then hit the second stage, and then it would really come on hard, and then use the converter more.
Well, you remember, okay, I'll tell you what I was working on. My mad scientist brain is always running about how to do the cheap and fun stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you remember I sent you home with a Super Turbine 300 one time that you took apart at TCI, and I was like, hey, can you upgrade it and use any Power Glide parts and make this thing better because I heard they're pretty weak and spindly? And you were like, no. If you had been yes, dude, I'm telling you, I would have got every Super Turbine 300 I could find. And my plan was a 350 Buick, which already makes a ton of torque, and nitrous on top of it with a Super Turbine 300 with a switch pitch setup. So I could get the motor to rev out of the hole by using the loose converter and then lock the converter up and throw it into high at the same time.
Yeah.
And let it pull like a diesel.
Now, Michael Schmidt's saying something here, but I don't 100% agree with, but I do agree with some stuff. He says adding small amounts of nitrous, 100 or less, doesn't require gas, or you can just add a bolt-on and nitrous at the track, low horsepower applications. Here's the things that I've only done a dry kit of 50 horsepower. The second you get to 100 horsepower, you need extra fuel somehow, some way. It's got to. Otherwise, if you're already running 13-1, you add 100 shot nitrous, you're going to be down into that 15 or 16-1 accelerating. You're going to need that extra fuel. But at 50 less, you can actually just kind of go up a couple jet sizes in the carburetor, and they'll take care of that.
You have to add fuel though. Think of it like this: NO2, right? So nitrous oxide is NO2.
N2O.
You're N2O. Oh yeah, but you're adding oxygen into the mix, right? So it's literally, and it's coming in as a liquid.
And then, oxygen doesn't burn. Oxygen is just the agent that allows something to burn.
What happens is inside the cylinder, when the actual combustion of the fuel burns, it separates the oxygen from the nitrogen.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's where you actually get your more power from, is from that oxygen in there. It's like flowing liquid air into the engine is what you're doing.
But
And
the oxygen doesn't burn. It has to burn something. Oxygen
it
is
burns the
just
gasoline. Yeah.
yeah, it's got to use the gasoline. So if you're
Yeah.
just putting in 100 shot of nitrous and no more extra fuel, all you're doing is just allowing. If you're running
You're
fat, then
leaning it out like hard.
yeah, you're leaning it way out. So you got to have a fuel in there for it to burn.
They say though lean is mean, and I've had it on the ragged edge where you got white plugs,
Oh yeah,
and man, they run good, but you do end up doing stupid stuff. Like I was saying, I broke the top of one of them hyper-eutectic pistons, and I was so happy it just broke the top because man, it could have been so catastrophic. Usually those pistons, those hyper-eutectic pistons, when they fail, it's like a house of cards. The whole thing just literally collapses and falls into shards into the pan, and then usually when you blow one up, they're usually pretty bad because they'll break a rod and the crank will come around and hit the rod and knock it out the side of the block. The problem with the hyper-eutectic piston and nitrous or turbo or anything like that is when that hyper-eutectic piston breaks, it literally collapses into a bunch of pieces of glass and ends up down in the pan. And now you got the entire rod with the wrist pin flying around inside the engine like a freaking sawzall on crack, right? And it just cuts your engine block in half, starting at the cylinder wall. They're tough on them, real tough when they blow them up like that.
Mount Burns is saying, I'm considering converting my 1970 Boss 302 to E85. Any hints? I'm just designing the fuel system now. If it's going to be stored for a while, there's a lot of work involved in getting all that E85 out so that way it doesn't, mess up your carburetor. If you don't mind doing that, then it's fine. And on Dallas's car, it's really simple because it's with his fuels that you could just pump it all out. But usually on something that's a mechanical pump, it's kind of a pain in the butt. Just saying. If you don't mind doing that, then it's fine. But as far as that, you're going to need to get some sort of fuel lines that are going to be PTFE, and then your carburetor is going to have to be slightly converted. And they sell metering blocks and a few other things. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it because the Cookie Monster is going to go E85 on the carburetor side, and then it's going to be running nitrous is still going to run the C23 fuel, so I can get a plug rating. But E85 is worth it, but there's a lot of work as far as maintaining it if you're going to store it for a while.
E85 is a very difficult thing to put on the street if you're carbureted, right? Because the mechanical fuel pump, if it's made of aluminum, it's going to get chewed up, right? If you have any kind of rubber in the lines, gone, right? And that's where I've always wondered, how well does it do on the steel lines?
It doesn't hurt nothing.
It doesn't hurt the steel lines at all. So you're just looking at, you need a E85 compatible rubber line to fix the joints from the fuel tank all the way up to the carburetor. All right. And then once you get in the carburetor, you have a whole new situation because the carburetor is aluminum. And the E85 likes to eat the crap out of that, especially if it sits in there longer than a day.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll literally, if you have like those old dichromate Hollies, it literally will start to just eat that thing away.
Yeah. It just chews it up and I have often wondered how well a thermoquad would do on E85 because it does have a phenolic body.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it could be good. So I got this thing right here in Messenger just a minute ago from Jason. And this Jason Falk, this is what I love, is that he sent me this vintage Dodge Dart 270 sedan. And this thing's in the line it says heavy patina, moss and all. Look at that thing, right?
Yeah.
66
for a long time. Oh, it's a 66 though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's pretty cool. It's got some cool
Is
stuff.
it a 4-speed car?
It doesn't show, but I think it's an automatic. I think I looked at the pedal. Yeah, the pedal's wide.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an automatic, but it doesn't show that there's rust through the floorboard there.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. Tanner saying he's out with no NOS experience. No, here's the thing is that you're willing to listen. My problem is the only reason why I say is most people are like, oh, I've been doing this for 50 years. Well, this is a little different. So actually, you know what? If you're willing to listen and try something, and you have something that can handle a little bit of juice, then no, you're not out. And yeah, that would be cool. But you can't videotape it right away until after SEMA. So you can videotape all you want. You can't post anything though, and you can't tell anyone about it, and you would have to sign an NDA. But after SEMA, then you can post all the videos you want about it.
Oh, Tom Brown saying, if I can ask Dallas, what grit stones did you use on the crosshatch for those thin rings on the 300? Well, ironically, I did not hone that one. That block had to get bored. It's those pistons are a different bore size. I want to say that block we had it bored 61 over because the Ford was a 3.811 bore, and the 300 has a 3.75 inch bore. So we went out 61 over. And when I had it bored, I learned a long time ago screwing with Molly rings just to have the machine shop do them. If you're doing them at home, I'll tell you exactly how to do them at home, but you have to practice at this. Okay. It's not that easy, but I use a 600 grit stone, and then it's not the stone wasn't the magic, because I just went and looked and see what the factory used to hone them for Molly rings, right? That's a 600 grit stone. You can do that at home, no problem. The thing is getting the 45-degree crosshatch, and that's all based on the speed of your drill as you're honing, right? So as we were saying, kerosene does a really good job of honing them out. I would start with kerosene because it's going to allow you to see the crosshatch really well. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to have to practice your speed, and you're going to have to come up with a timing to try to get it consistent. Now you're looking at 45 degrees, and it's real easy to see. If you go a little bit faster, it changes the degree on it quickly.
Yeah. What I tend to do is on my drill, it goes really fast. And sometimes I actually do it with my air drill because it goes a little slower. So that way I can go up and down about this speed. Uh-huh. And I get my 45 degrees down because it moves a little slower up and down, as far as a circle. And I can get my 45 degrees. Now, that means that I have to do it a little longer. But I just like it because it just turns slightly slower for that.
I just turn on music with a fast beat, and I put my drill on speed number 2. If you've ever heard of the band Fight,
a
song called "Into the Pit," and it's it hits hard, and it's like you get that drill going to the beat, man, and you can get it going pretty good.
Yeah,
but it changes as soon as you get to the next song, so you just got to put that sucker on repeat.
Yeah. Tanner's saying that the only time he ever ran a nitrous plate, he had a dual plane and he had an open spacer under the nitrous plate because it made sense. Exactly. And that's why I would have no problem giving you a nitrous plate, because you see that kind of stuff and say, that makes sense. And that's the way I'm going to do it. It's all about plenum volume. So yeah. And then Ron, it goes, my Demon 440 utilized a Wind X accelerator intake, worked great on my 72 New Yorker with the same result system and dual plane experience.
A dual plane works good on nitrous. It does work good. It has distribution issues, and if you look at all the plugs, you'll see it. It's usually the one side with the shallow plenum pulls more air and fuel, and in that case, more nitrous than the other side.
Yeah,
and because it's got a more plenum volume, so it's lazier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can even put a 2-inch spacer on there too, that even helps out even more.
But it does work good on a dual plane. I've always, like when the rule of thumb in the late 90s was the nitrous era. 90s all the way up to like 2006 or 7.
Yeah, say right around there. Yeah.
And most guys would say don't run it on a dual plane. It'll cause backfires, but I never really saw any of that. Not one time. I saw some really crappy tuners.
Yes.
Is what I saw 90% of the time. The guys that they'd put the nitrous kit on out of the box and just go with the recommendations on the nitrous kit. And that's what they ran all the time. And it was like, dude, no wonder you got like a big block and you're barely fitting in this class. And you're asking how come we're going so much faster. A lot of it is just the tune up.
Yeah.
And reading plugs was the magic thing on that whole deal.
Absolutely. Ken Scott, so why do you love slant sixes? 225 slant 6 equals 37.5 cubic inches per cylinder. Does it outperform the 300? No, it does not. And V8, yada, yada, yada. Or is
Or
it like
is it
Buick
like
Love?
Buick Love?
Dare to be the fuck the rest. Okay, here's the thing for me. There's very little parts for it, so that means there's no cylinder heads for it. There's very little parts. Intakes, exhaust, maybe a few other little things, and it's literally. I've said this a few times. Imagine it's the first evolution beyond a Briggs and Stratton engine that's 6 cylinders long. It has about the same airflow. It has the same about technique. It just everything it has about the same. I like it because it's not only different, but to get one to be efficient on that type of head is hard. And they're an underscore engine. They're incredibly they take forever. They're temperamental. They get hot in some areas. They don't heat up too long. They have terrible, believe it or not, they have terrible oiling. They have great longevity, but as far as a performance engine, it's terrible for the oiling. And that's why there's all these modifications you have to do. I just love it because it's different. Like Dallas, he likes Buicks. Because it's slightly different. For me, to drive a slant six every day is really easy, but to keep up with traffic and then try to get that 30 miles per gallon, that is literally the only thing I have not achieved. My car can go in traffic and do everything. I just can't get that 30 miles per gallon.
My take on this is like, and I know it's not my question, but the reality of it is like why I like the Buicks is easy to sum up, and it's probably very similar to like why Shane likes his slant sixes. It's a challenge, right? Like I could be like everybody else and just go get a small block Chevy, and I could run a circle around half of them guys, right? But where's the fun in that? I like to take something that you have to really think to make it work. And then when you do, the success of that is so much more rewarding than, yeah. And it's like, it's hot rodding on a budget friendly scale. And you don't have to get super duper involved or, do a lot of machine work to do any of it. You can just try things out that people haven't tried before. Like the reason why I like the Buicks is because when I was in high school, they were $100 or less, right? Mm-hmm. I could go get them small blocks all day long for $100 or less. They were everywhere. And then the cool thing was, if you had the right factory parts, you could make something that was pretty damn healthy on the street and still be very drivable, get decent fuel economy. And it was fun to beat on guys that had double hump heads on their 355, and you got your junkyard 350 Buick with a 2-barrel on it.
Yeah.
It was having the refined combo first and then all the good parts later.
And I'm with him on this. You know how, like, this just happened this last weekend. We're driving home and we're going down the interstate and we're doing 77 miles an hour. As me and Cash, we get off, and we get off to get gas. And then this guy pulls in and goes, "Hey man, I was just following you. You were doing like 77 miles an hour. You got a V8 in this thing?" And I didn't say a word, just popped the hood. And he goes, "Holy crap, a slant six." And he was just so impressed. And then he goes, "Mine could barely get out of its own way." And I'm like, "Well, yeah." I said, "The whole idea of this car is I'm trying to do this." And then he wanted to talk to me. I was like, "Look, I love talking to you. We do a Wednesday night tech talk." I gave him a sticker because we were trying to get home for dinner. And he was really just, he's like, "I drove one of these things and it was just awesome. I couldn't kill it." But that kind of interaction is why I do it. And why I love it is because people actually see it. They think it's a V8 and all of a sudden it's a slant six that's, doing almost 80 miles an hour down the freeway. And they just can't believe it. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here because we're lagging behind. Michael Schmidt's asking, NOS is a second stage, a separate later blast of nitrous, or is it on top of the first blast like a double blast at the same time? No. So what it is, it's literally 2 stages. So the bottom stage can go from 0, or actually 50, so not 0, but 50 to 300. So that's your launch nitrous. And then usually a second or 2 out, you'll have a second stage come on that's usually timed. Typically, that's going to be a higher system because it's under you going to create more torque. So if you're doing 150, you do 200 here, or 150, 150, or 150, 300, whatever your engine can handle. It usually comes down to track conditions too. So that's typically how it works.
I'm just reading some of those old ones. It's funny if Ron Ward says, LOL, extra fuel, put a Q-jet with leaky well plugs on top.
right. It's right. Not only is the extra oxygen creating power, but the denser, cooler charge is creating a huge increased in volumetric efficiency. In fact, that is correct. I've actually measured. You can measure this. If you don't mind, you can just use it with air. You don't have to use nitrous, but obviously it exponentially gets more as you get colder and you get some of the cooling effect. But if you put a nitrous plate and you run just air to it, and you're running, say, 100 pounds of pressure, remember it's 900 plus it's phase changing, you can actually pull a vacuum on your carburetor just by doing that, because it will, with a perimeter plate or however, just because it's going down. So now add that to 950 pounds, plus now it's going from a liquid to a gas. So you're getting the expansion and cooling effect. And that's really what it does. And he is absolutely right. It makes your carburetor act, and the signal becomes so much stronger underneath that carburetor.
See, Dylan Levi saying next Thursday through Saturday, I'll be in Bowling Green for Speed Fest. Is that the LS Fest thing?
I don't know. My company's going out there. There's a thing going on at Bowling Green for Speed Fest.
I don't know what Speed Fest is. I was thinking that's LS Fest.
I don't know. I think it's Speed Fest. The company's going there, and I didn't know anything about it until just today. So
I don't know. I can't promise anything. I will have my son next week, so things usually kind of revolve around that. But yeah, just hit me up, man, and I might come up there one day during the day. Well, he should be getting out of school next week, so maybe we can go up there and check that out.
Ron, this is funny because that's exactly what I think too when I think of a hypertonic piston, and it goes. It's a hypertonic pistons remind me of that Rolling Stones song, "Shattered." You know the song "Shattered"?
Yeah, should be shattered.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Dizzy says, "What do y'all think about E3 spark plugs? Snake oil, man. Snake oil.
Go to an NGK plug. It's a good plug. It gets a good read, and run 2 steps colder than what you think, and sneak it back up onto the tune. It's always cool. It's always better to spend a little extra money on plugs and then to have to worry about pistons. So go 2 colder than what you think, and then work your way up.
Mostly old parts. Ron Ward saying Dallas, a step up piston in a thermal quad is the big issue with E85 compatibility. Is it aluminum? I don't know if the step up piston is aluminum. I guess it might be, or the bore might be aluminum.
Oh, we got a super chat here. So thank you. I'm going to jump right to it here, and then we'll back up here. So Knee Metal 3221. Thank you. 2 customers unhappy with smogged C3 vets. Can I just do heads, cam, etc., or is the engine junk all around? 2 customers unhappy with smogged C3 vets. No, if it just didn't pass smog. I'm not sure.
He's not talking about smog, California smog. He's talking about their smogger vets with the smogged out garbage on them from the 70s.
Oh, okay.
So he's saying, can I just do heads, cams, etc., or is the motor junk all around? No, it's a good motor, good bottom end. Pull the cam out, throw it in the trash. Pull all the lifters out, throw them away. Because in the 70s, well, it doesn't matter if you're throwing the cam away, you're going to throw the lifters away. But yeah, just swap the heads, cam, and intake, and you might be able to just use some of those had an intake without an EGR on them up until like 74 or 5.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I backed up too far here, but Dallas, my New Yorker gained almost 2 full seconds with a 125 shot. That thing had a 276 gear and trapped a 1320 at 101. That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Shane, it would be pretty awesome one year to I get past all this stuff going on now, and we show up at the Buick Nationals and take all comers and get like an Electra 225 with like 255 gears and spray the crap out of that thing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool to like just heads up, pick some guys and just freaking duck them?
I'm telling you, I'm going to have something really, really cool for it soon. I promise you. I promise you that. Danny Boyd saying my 240 inline sets can't keep up with traffic or get 30 miles per gallon. Of course, it's in a 4,000-pound truck. I got to tell you, when I drove my green car, my car weighs 3,200 pounds with me in it. And I had cash, plus I had an intake, extra set of heads, plus I got all my tools, spare tire. I bet you if I ran across the scales with a full tank of gas, it's probably right at 3,600 pounds down the road when I'm traveling, because I bring a lot of tools and stuff just in case, and extra stuff. I got 5 gallons of water. 2 gallons of water, a gallon of oil, a gallon of training fluid. Just the stuff that you might need. It is an old vehicle and shit breaks. So, but to date, it's been pretty good. So
down from that, I guess, or maybe I'm behind. Need Metal saying inline sixes are on the comeback. And what I was going to say is like that. Shane started doing this with the slant sixes like probably 2015, 17. Okay, but you started off with a challenge. You were trying to beat your wife's Hyundai Elantra for like half the money or something, right?
That's correct. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. We had a Hyundai Elantra, and it was the wife's car. And then when I got the job at Crower, it was 25 miles one way to work. Now, I left so early in the morning, it was no traffic there, but it was traffic on the way home. And then I was like, well, I'm going to get something that's old, because I was tired of driving new cars. In California, we had to smog the thing all the time. And so I was like, I'm going to get a Dart that's slant six. And then I was telling Dallas, I was like, look, man, I'm trying to get this thing 30 miles to the gallon at 70, and at that time it was 70 miles an hour, because that's the speed in California, but in that area. But then it went up to 75 when I came out here. Now, if it was still 70, I believe I could hit it right now. I believe I could hit it. But if it with the 75, that just puts a little bit more into it. And I'm just outside that window of RPM at anything over 2,500 RPM, the mileage starts to go down rapidly. So I got to get underneath that 2,500 RPM mark. And I think I'm going to do that with this stick shift.
That's what I was just going to say. Vintage Adventure Drive says right below that, my slant got 21 miles per gallon last weekend, going to Tulsa at 75 to 80 miles an hour. That's with a near bone stock engine and the Weber 38 and the split exhaust. And imagine what it would get if you slowed down to like 70 or 67. That's right below the one you got selected right now. It's literally the one that says I'm a fan of the 904 Torque Flight, and then you go right below it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we've talked, but Shane and I talk every day, and he's amazed that there's a crest on the slant six where it gets good fuel economy, and then it just freaking hammers down.
Yeah, and that 21 miles per gallon, that's easy to get. It's when you start getting up into the 24 and 25, because that's 4 more miles per gallon, and you'll notice that. Once I tuned up my car and got it all running right, that 21 miles per gallon I hit pretty easily. To get to 24 and 25 miles per gallon, that's at that speed, that's when it gets really hard. It really is hard. And then by the time you change the camshaft, because you're going to make the engine work a little harder, then you got airflow, and then it just starts dogpiling on top of it, because you got to do things to it. So yes, it what you're finding is it's going to start snowballing fast.
Ron Ward's calling me a boomer. He used a small block Chevy for reference instead of an LS. Slap my ass. And you know what? I've been doing this probably just as long as everybody else on here. I've been into the hot rod stuff probably since. Well, I know for my 13th birthday, my dad bought me subscriptions to Hot Rod Magazine, CarCraft, and Cartoons. Yeah. Right. And I've been into this for a long time. We used to say in my little group that my mom could build a small block Chevy in a sandbox and it still would run 9s. There was so many parts available for him, and nobody had anything for a small block Buick, and that's why I liked them. It was real hot rodding to do that with something that nobody else wanted.
67 Belvedere stays with traffic just fine. The problem is averaging 14.5 miles per gallon doing 75 miles an hour. My 20 Ram gets 21 doing the same trip. I'm still driving the Belvedere 50 miles one way to work. 50 minutes one way, sorry, one way to work. And that's the thing, is that's why I always say those two things, is that you can keep up with traffic, but this one goes down. It's not like, it's like the hot, was the hot and crazy Matrix. It's like you have one, the other one goes down. And the whole idea is trying to find that, can I do it? And yes, that's 70 to 75 miles an hour is a killer, because these things are made like bricks. They were not designed to cut through the air. They just were not. So that's the hardest thing.
Well, they were never designed to run that kind of speeds down the road. They were all designed for 55-mile-an-hour roads.
Yeah. And he said he did drill 5 inch-and-a-half holes, inch and a quarter in the air cleaner. That makes a huge difference. I'm telling you, because on the wife's car, I didn't have that. I actually had a PCV valve, and when I would go down the freeway, it was trying to suck in so much air. It literally was just pulling oil right through the carburetor, and from the air, just from the PCV valve, just pulling it right in. Yeah, the breather, just sucking it in. So once I did that, the thing started running cleaner and actually ran better.
Jay Malone says, who uses Champion spark plugs anymore besides in lawnmowers? I don't use them, period. When we started having, I used to be an Autolite guy. I loved Autolite spark plugs. And somewhere around 2014 or 13, they got sold to some first brands that took them offshore, went over to China. And then next thing you know, it's like, what I noticed was I had got a set of those Autolite, Chinese Autolites. I'm like, wow, new design, new box, looks flashy, right? Put them in. I torqued it down and I heard pink, and I pulled the spark plug socket off and it had broke the freaking plug off. And I'm like, well, that's odd. I've never had one do that before. And I thought it was just, maybe that was my one-off plug. No, that like probably 3 of them out of that set of 8 did the same thing. And I'm like, I'm done with these things, right? And when I was doing the Wednesday Night Tech Talk Live with Tony, I told him that they broke easy because I tried side gapping one time and it broke the whole plug in half. And he was like, no way. So I went and bought a package of them, and like 4 plugs. And he side gapped one. And as soon as he cut the ground strap off, the whole plug broke in half on live. And he was like, I had no idea. And I said, yeah, I went strictly to NGK after that. I'm not even looking back.
Yeah. Ron saying that, he goes, I haven't had any good luck with NGK plugs. I've had good luck with Champion, Autolite in my 440s. I tried NGK and just failed to maintain the same performance. I agree with you. In my 440, believe it or not, the Bosch Platinum, that was when they first came out, because I drove a 440 every day. It ran the best when it was no nitrous, no nothing. It was just a daily driver. But it burned a little bit of oil because it had such a small electrode, it would never gum up. It just was a tiny little platinum, that little projectile, and it would never foul. The thing I like about the NGK plug is that it when you're running nitrous, it has the best way to read it. The way that they do that, the coding on it, it gives the easiest plug to read. Does it make more performance? I don't know. All I know is that it's the easiest to read.
The one thing I did notice about the NGK plugs is, like, let's say you had just pick something, a 98 Explorer, okay? And it calls for XCD-X Autolite plug, and you get the equivalent in NGK. You want to get 1 heat range hotter, right? There's something about the NGK plug, the ceramic being more dense or something. That's the only thing I can think of that pulls more heat out of that. Mm-hmm. And it seems like they're 1 heat range colder for the recommended plug. So just go to 1 heat range hotter and everything will work just like it did before. And generally what you'll feel on that is when it's 1 heat range hotter, they will have a little bit more low end torque. Not 1 heat range. Generally, when you go to a hotter plug, it makes it have more low end torque.
Yeah. Bear Rose is saying something here that I've been saying forever. 2 to 2,500 is the magic RPM for anything for mileage. And I know that I've been telling Dallas to this, that if I get this gearing in here the way I want it, that's going to be 2,350 RPM at 77 miles an hour. That is absolute magic for what I'm trying to do, because that means at 75, I'm going to be right at 2,300 RPM. That is literally perfect. And because of how little loss there is in just spinning it, it's going to be awesome. I'm
just
really looking forward to it.
if it can pull it at that speed and not, you don't have to downshift to go up the hills.
It's
that's
exactly right.
Primo right there.
And that's what I tried too, is that now obviously I didn't have the wind, but when we were driving around on the 2-lane roads, I was in lockup at 2,300 RPM going up the hills, and it had plenty of torque to get up the hills, and it was actually accelerating without me really like laying into it. It was really simple, and it had plenty of torque. So I think I should be fine. But I've got a couple different fifth gear ratios that I can just bolt onto the back and try different ratios. One is the 7.9 and the other one's the 8.6. I think the 8.6 is going to be the best one because that's going to put the RPM a little higher. That'll put me at 2,300. The 7.9 is going to put me at like 2,150, which I think is slightly low. That's just my opinion, but I'm going to try them both.
So Michael Schmidt saying, change your mile per gallon quest with twin carbs. What have you done to the different circuits? For example, the accelerator pump circuit and intermediate, etc. Are you soldering and redrilling jets?
Oh, yes. So if on some of my videos, I've actually shown this. They have these, what they call like valve bodies or metering blocks in these Holley 1920s. There's an early version of these that had a single pot. So they have this economizer that comes down and it hits on this lever, and they have these twin balls. So when it's under acceleration, that thing drops down, it opens up 2 holes, and it makes it super fat. And then when you're on the economizer, it takes those twin balls off and then makes it super lean. So there's this huge disparity between them. In the early 60s, they made one that actually had a single ball. I've got the part number downstairs. And what's nice about that, it has less of a disparity between the two. What's good about that is when you're running twin carbs, you want less of a disparity. So because the economizer is different on those. So then that there's a little tiny brass behind that. You can pop that piece of brass off. Then I soldered up and I drilled holes. Now there's a check ball that goes behind that. Then you can press that brass thing back in there. There's a lot of little plugs I took out and drilled holes, soldered things up, re-drilled it a different hole. And all I did is I did the area of the hole. And then I would just do it by percentages. If I wanted 10% less fuel going through that, I would make it a 10% less hole. And it works out really good. I cruise down the road right now at about 14.7 to 15.1 in that range right now with the twin carbs and my exhaust that I have on it. When I go, if I were to go full throttle and it's over 2,500 RPM, it's about 12.5. Now, if it's lower than 2,500 RPM, it's like 11.8. But with the higher RPM, it's going to be fine. And that's going to be, it's actually going to get better mileage, like Dallas was saying to me a few days ago. When I'm driving around town right now, I'm only getting about like 17, maybe 18 because it's under load and I'm having to load the converter. But because that 397 first gear is going to be there, you multiply that with the 276 gear, it's going to have enough grunt. I think that's like a 10.9 something gear ratio change. So that means I'll be able to get up to speed and then be able to short shift it and get the car accelerating. And if I can get that around town mileage up into the 20s, then my 26 mile per gallon so far that I've gotten the best of, I think it's going to be obliterated. And then if I can get that going to Dallas's house, because Dallas's house right now is the benchmark, and same with WAF Racing. When we went out there for the all hands on deck, I think I got like 25 something to Dallas's house, and we were hauling ass out there. And so next time I go up to Dallas's house, I'm going to do the exact same speed, and I'm going to videotape it there and back, just like we did with me and Cash. And I think I could do it. I think this is the way to do it. So yes, there's plenty of stuff that I've done on there, and I've posted a lot of videos on. So if you go back and take a look at them, they're there.
All right. Well, Tom Brown saying that's the whole idea behind my L Special is to get good or better mileage than a 97 Toyota RAV4, but look cooler and be able to haul more when needed. And exactly. It's a great idea. I'm telling you, I think if you're wanting to compete with cars like today's equivalent cars, and his benchmark is a 97 Toyota RAV4, which is actually pretty good when it comes to being competitive against it, because they do sit higher. They get way worse fuel economy than a Toyota Corolla. But it's something that's easily attained. Well, not easily. It's a challenge, and it's attainable if you do it right. The Buick V6s, when they ended the 3800 Series 3, my dad lived and died by those engines. He swore by them. They were the best freaking deal out there, right? But he could squeeze 32, 33 miles a gallon out of them. But it was not uncommon to have 28 to 30 miles a gallon out of them. And I think a 3.8 Buick is literally just a taller deck height than a 3800 Series 2 and 3. I think it's capable of doing the same kind of fuel economy if you were to throw the same things at it as the 3800 Series 2 and 3 with like the newer, thinner rings, the single roller timing chain. That there isn't anything that really changed between them, with the exception of deck height and cylinder head. And I know for a fact those old 225 V6 Buicks, like the Dauntless 225 or whatever you want to call them, those ports are the same as a 300, which peak efficiency on those things is very low RPM. It's meant to get a LeSabre, a 64 LeSabre moving. That's what that 300 was built for. So it makes peak torque at very low RPM, which generally equates to high fuel economy and efficiency. That's generally how it works. And I think that would be a great combination going down the road. But I think you're going to find that the weight of that L Special, I don't care if it's a 64 or 5, it's still going to be up there at 3,300 pounds. And that's where that weight starts to become a detriment against that 225 cubic inch engine or 231.
Yeah. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here because I'm going to try to stay relevant with the conversation here because we're kind of far behind. Ron's asking me, do you have an O2 monitor on the dash? Actually, I have it on my phone. Fast has this wideband O2 sensor, and I can run single or dual, and it gives you a nice monitoring. Here's the demo mode. So it basically does this. It gives you a graph down below here, and you can record it, and I can do a screen record as I drive down the road. That's the single one, and then also you can have it average the two, or you can have individually here. It does RPM, and it's got a bunch of window switches in it too, and it works really awesome. And it gives you your RPM, true RPM, and whatnot. So I run this, and when I'm tuning, I put a vacuum gauge up on the dash. Now this has an input on it, so I could put a map sensor on it. That goes up to like say, 1 bar or something like that. So that way it would tell me exactly what the manifold pressure is, and I could record that on here as well. So yes, that's actually how I'm doing it. Yes, I would love another Holley 1920. I would, if you got them, because every single one I had, I've been collecting them for 10 years. I would say since 16. Yeah, 16 I've been collecting Holley 1920s. Clint got me the intake that I've always wanted, the Offenhauser twin one, because that basically gets, and the reason why I went to the dual carbs is because it actually got shittier mileage with the single one, because the center one was running super fat and these ones were running super lean. So you had to kind of find where it's going to be, but it was just literally wasting gas in the center. By going to two of them, the runners were the same length now, and I didn't have any fuel distribution problems, and the plugs look even all the way across. So therefore I could lean them out a little bit more. It didn't have to have that crazy disparity like it had before. And then eventually I'm going to go to the Dolce Duals. So like I was telling Dallas before the thing started, it's going to be essentially 2 3-cylinder engines. And if you know anything about the Carnell cycle, about how thermodynamics work or how power works, a 3-cylinder engine is perfect because you don't have any overlapping power. There's none really overlapping. So if you have 2 3-cylinder engines, and they are one carburetor for these three, these exhausts go 3 to 1, and then it goes from 2 to 1. Then it's like really running 2 3-cylinder engines, and that's, I think, is where it's going to get ideal, is the best that I could ever get, and then I could, hopefully at that point I can get it. I'm trying to, because air in and air out makes power.
Well, the power stroke on a 2 3-cylinder engines is overlapping the whole entire time. So there's like seamless power.
That's right.
There's no dead spot.
Yeah, even in a 3-cylinder engine.
Well, that's why the V6 is actually ideal when it's or not. I guess I shouldn't say V6. The 6-cylinder engine is actually ideal.
That's right. Yes, exactly. And I like the inline six, or just something that's inline personally for me, because the balance, there's nothing crazy to balance on them, because they're inherently balanced, because 2 are going up, 2 are going down, 2 are in the middle. As long as you get the weights right on the piston, weight right on the rods, should be just fine.
Mosaic Parts Ron Ward says, Slant Daily Garage, interesting. Would you make better mileage with a 5-speed manual transmission around town and on the highway?
I believe so.
Find out.
Well, we're going to find out, and I really believe so, because I think, like I was telling Dallas, right now around town, I'm getting about 17 to 18 around town. And there's no point in checking that. The only time I really try to do the mileage is when I go to, like, say, Dallas's house or WAF Racing, or to my brother's house in Dallas, Texas. That's the only time I really do the mileage. I do take mileage when I'm around town, but it's poor. I mean, I'm getting, like, when I go from here to work and back, most of it's around town driving. It's like 15 or 14 when I'm in traffic and all that stuff. Hopefully I can get that up to 20 around town. And then that means that the other mileage will come around as well. And just parasitic loss of the twist. If I take a 904 and I twist that, there is a lot of force to turn that compared to a T5 tranny. It's really a simple, easy.
No loss whatsoever.
There's almost no loss. I'm like, wow, this is going to be super efficient.
Okay, so I guess we should probably dive down into this a little bit deeper. If you go a few of them down, Michael Schmidt says, Shane, so your drive ratio includes the slant pulling a 273 gear with overdrive, and this has resulted in the highest mile per gallon?
Yes. So that 273
with the 3-speed. The 3-speed, right?
Oh, yeah. That's with the 3. It's actually 276 gear in the rear. But yes, and a 26.3 diameter tire. Just remember that. So I did all that math, and in lockup. So right now, in a 904 with lockup, 276 gear, 26.3 diameter tire, that's about 2,600 RPM-ish, 2550 at about 70, I'm going off the top of my 75 miles an hour. It puts it right at lockup, which is good. Now that's why I have that 75 mile an hour. But here's the thing: is that if I have that overdrive, but it's only a 0.86 overdrive, that puts me at 2,300, which is 2,350, which is perfect. I'm just below that, because sometimes 77 miles an hour is what everybody wants to run, and I'm just beyond that threshold to 2,500 RPM, and that's where the mileage starts to fall off.
I think what you're going to find is this, okay? Because you are going to a 5-speed with a clutch, right? And the clutch locks it up. It's just like having a lockup converter. Same thing, 1-to-1 ratio. There's no slippage. There's no loss. The automatic transmission, even though it was the 904 Torque Flight, it only takes 12 horsepower to turn that thing, maybe? 22? Okay. Mm-hmm. Think about it like this. Let's say it takes 1 horsepower to turn that T5. Exactly. So now you have 21 more horsepower, but you probably have 40 more foot-pounds of torque available to maintain the same road speed. It's got to get better fuel economy, hands down.
And also, too, I weighed a converter with fluid. I've weighed the flex plate with the clutch and everything. It's actually lighter. The flywheel with all the stuff is still lighter than a stock style converter, the stock style A500.
Yeah, you have less rotational mass now.
It's less rotational mass, exactly. Then I weighed all the gears inside this thing. Now it goes from gear down, up, and gear over, but there's less rotational mass. And I put an inch-pound gauge on there. I couldn't even get a reading to turn it over. So it wasn't even reading. It was so easy to turn over.
Yeah, Barry Cuda down here says, I've got the last version of the Buick V6 in my VX Holden Commodore. The highway fuel consumption is very pleasing. So there's a lot of, if I had unlimited money, I could have a really bitchin' YouTube channel. Well, I guess anybody could with unlimited money. If I just had reasonable money, I could do something really cool. The United States got that Commodore, and we don't even know it. Here in the United States, it was called the Cadillac Catera. the caddy that zigs, right? And that was before the Holden, Commodore or the Monaro became the US 04 to 06 GTO. So you get the Cadillac Catera. It's the same platform as the Holden Commodore, but it's got some shitty French engine in it. And you just take that out and put it in the nearest dumpster, and then you put a 3800 Buick in it using the parts from a 96 to 2002 Camaro. All of it just bolts right in, because that's how they made those Commodores, was they used those parts. And I've been wanting to do one of those Cadillac Cateras for so long now, and every time I look at it, it's like they're actually getting to the point where I can't find one on Marketplace for like $100 anymore. They're just like, they just don't have any. They're just so shitty. They're so worn out. But
so Barracuda is saying down here, and I'll jump back, but this kind of relays onto this with the 4L60E transmission, which I hear negativity about, but mine has been great. Touching wood. Here's the thing about those is that a 4L60E and the 700R4 share a lot of things. Literally, it's the band. There's no adjustment on that band. Once you set that rod length that's underneath that cover there, that's it. And they don't like to go into fourth gear under load because it's using that band right there. It doesn't like that. So a lot of people will go into fourth gear and into overdrive, and they'll try to pull a hill, because I think the gearing on that is like 0.06 or 0.068 or something like that is what it is. And then as they're under load, then it comes out of overdrive into third gear, and then it tries to shift back. That's where you have the problem. That's where they turn into glass. 460E just does not like to go from third gear to fourth under full throttle, or in fourth gear at all with full throttle. So if you can avoid that, you won't get a bunch of neutrals going forward. Plus, all the people who have put these 460Es, these things have already got 80 or 100,000 miles, and then they try to put 800
turbocharged LS in front of them.
Yeah, exactly, and then they blow up. I wonder why, because they probably tried to go into overdrive under load, and they just literally just annihilate that band. It just will not handle it.
In the US, that thing has a nickname called the 4L Slippy E.
Yes.
Right? And there's so many bad stories about the 4L60E, but in reality, the good stories probably far outweigh the bad, right? But you just don't hear about them because people were pleased with them, so they don't bitch on the internet about it. And you get the 1 out of 22,000 of them that somebody had a problem with. Mm-hmm. What they're notorious for is they got a big sun shell in there that's like, I don't know, stamped super thin 22 gauge steel maybe or something.
Yeah, it works, yeah.
Yeah, and what happens is that thing essentially after so many gear changes, it'll actually crack around where it's shaped. Mm-hmm. And it'll split that sun shell like in two. And generally it happens like when you park it and you don't put your foot on the brake and let it come to a complete stop. What you do is you roll in your driveway, you're coming to a stop, and you throw it up and park. And generally it's the wife that's like guilty of this, right? And for some reason, when that happens, that sun shell ends up shucking.
Actually, I agree with you. And what happens is I see it a lot here. Nobody uses their parking brakes here at all. So what they'll do is they'll use their brake, they'll put it in park, then they'll just release their foot off the
and
brake.
Let it fall back on the parking paw.
And they let it fall back on the parking paw. And that's what breaks it. Literally, that's what breaks it. Colleen, I just want to give a shout out to Colleen. Thank you. She's one of our mods, and she always is up here. And we've been busy. I haven't been able to give much love, but go check out WAF Racing. He's a sponsor. He's the reason why he sponsors us here. He pays for all this for you guys, and that's why there's no commercials on this. Is because of him. So go and check him out. WAF Racing. I'm not sure what specials he's got there. He's got a bunch of cool stuff. And thank you, Colleen, for everything you do. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's see. Barry's saying my 4L60E is the version that goes behind the V6. Matter of fact, here, I'll tell you something that's interesting. After 1996, they're all the same. They made a removable bell housing to where you just essentially bolt the bell housing on and it fits that application. And so they're all pretty much the same. Matter of fact, the last version of, I believe, came in the later Trailblazer SSs and stuff, was the 4L75E. And you can actually convert one of those 4L60Es to the 4L75E, or you can convert it, and because the 4L60E is a 700R4, you can convert the 700R4 to have the mechanical valve body and still use all the 4L75E internal parts. So you can have like a really strong 700R4.
Yeah, and in fact, the small block Ford bell housing you take the bell housing of the 4L60E and you can build this small block Ford onto. It'll accommodate 4L60, 4L65, 4L70, and 4L75 converters. So yeah, and with that we're actually casting those right now. They're going to be up for sale here soon. And I've got some really other cool stuff that is related to the 4L60E coming out pretty soon. So check it out. Just stay up. You guys will get firsthand knowledge when it comes out.
Let's see. Indirect Connection says we had a 95 Chevy vans for work. They were delivery vans and beat the shit. When they failed, we'd drive 70 mile an hour down the freeway stuck in second. That's that's the tranny. That's exactly what they do. They won't shift out of second.
Yep.
Well, I guess when they fail, they either have no gears or like one gear.
Yeah. It depends on where you broke it at. If you broke it at the paw, you have no gears. If you broke it in fourth gear, you probably got 1 and 2, and that's about it. Racer Ray, I'm going to back up. He goes, hell, the 4L60 in the S10 was a used one I picked up for $50, changed the fluid and filter, then beat the shit out of it. Still working. Exactly.
Well, in my S10, I bought that S10 and the training was bad. And I went to the junkyard and it's a 95. It's a 1 year only 95. So I found a 95 Suburban. I smelled the fluid. I called Shane. I'm like, dude, what do you think? He's like, how much is it? And I'm like, 131 with tax. And he's like, dude, pull it. So I pulled it. I brought it home, put it in the S10. I've been driving it ever since.
Yeah.
But it did start acting weird the other day, and I have no idea why it did that, and it hasn't done that since.
I'm with John Wilburn on this one because I grew up in Southern California, so this is actually part of the test. He goes, I always use the parking brake to save the parking paw and sprawl. Here's the thing, is that in California, you use the brake, your foot is still on the brake, you put it in park. Before you release the brake, you're supposed to pull the e-brake or set it with your foot before you release the brake. And they actually test that when you're parking the car because they make you parallel park the car on a hill or down a hill. And you turn the wheels to it or away from it, depending on where you're at. And if you don't do that, you fail. That's literally the thing. You cannot rely on the parking paw because there's so many hills out there that they break all the time. And you'll see cars in people's driveways and they didn't set the e-brake. So I'm with you, John. And I'm with Dean on this one. Tremendous mechanical sympathy. I agree because I'm the same way.
All right. Well, hey, you know what? I have to mention this. I have to cut out early. I had a surprise. You have a sleep study tonight. I've been actually waiting for a sleep study for like a year. And then finally I got a phone call today and I'm like, yeah, when do you want to set it up? And they're like, how about tonight? I'm like, nothing like short notice.
Right.
But yeah, so I got to go get this sleep test done. Hopefully they can get my cortisol level under control. But well, and this will tell them hopefully something. So I do have to come out of here a little bit early.
Yeah. So, well, that's good for you because I'm, at least one of us will be getting good sleep then, right?
Well, if you notice, like my face is really red, and it's because my cortisol level is really high. I can feel it. Like, and then earlier when I got mad real easy, I could tell that that's what's going on.
You feel the hotness on your face when you get.
I feel like these. The easiest way to explain it is like you've had an infection somewhere before and it feels like itchy.
Yeah, it's warm. Yeah,
it feels like that right here on the side of my head, like both sides. It feels like it's itchy, like you want to scratch right here, but it's inside your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to tell my wife it feels like needles. It feels like needles sticking me right here.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah. I've had that, whenever I moved here, I was getting some, skin condition problems. It took me almost 3 years to get used to the climate out here.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see, get back over here where we're at with the See, do we have any more nitrous stuff or anything, or what we were just sounds fun. Um, for it, yeah, those 4.3s were no joke. Not a torque monster, but they got it done. The 4300 of V6s, basically. I'm gonna say so. Yeah,
I'd like to. I really want to put a Buick V6 in its place in my little 4.3. But I
that'd
mean,
be awesome.
right now I'm just looking at. I need to just have something that runs and drives and gets
Yeah,
to point A to point B, and all I got to do is maintain it. One less thing to work on at the moment. I'm telling you, when I finish this gold Buick, I'm not going to be doing tools every day, especially since I'm starting. I'm going to start college here in August. So
yeah. Barry Kuda is saying here that he knows someone with an early 90s V8 Holden Ute with a 4L60. It's done a mega mileage, lots of towing, been well maintained, no troubles at all. Yeah,
you know what?
it's really the overdrive. As long as you stay out of the throttle and overdrive, you're going to be fine.
This gives me an idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got so many viewers from Australia area, New Zealand. I wonder if we could ship one of those Utes to the United States with a 3800 in it, and then just use the Cadillac Catera and convert it to regular our left-hand drive stuff, and voila,
Why not?
Bob's your uncle, right? You got a freaking Australian Ute in the U.S.
Yeah,
with a good 3800 and a 4L60E.
yeah. So I think that'd be awesome. But Tanner's saying here, what would you recommend for nitrous on a car with a 4-speed? What special accommodations would you make? Okay,
Oh man.
you've done stick shift nitrous before too, right?
No, but
Oh.
I know exactly where I would start.
Yeah. So I had a wide open switch, but I also had a button. So the wide open switch, it couldn't be armed. It couldn't be turned on until it was wide open. But I didn't hit the button. I actually had a Hurst T handle. It had a thumb nitrous button on it that Dallas remembers. They sold them all. It was this little red button. So I would launch the car in first gear, and as soon as I pulled second, I would hit that button, and the throttle had to be full throttle. It was a window switch, but I also had to hit the button. Now that was totally fine because I had a A33 and I had a 360. No, actually, it was a 340 when it was that one. I eventually blew that up, went to a 360, but I had a 150 shot on that, and then I would let up on the button, shift to third, and then I would hit the button again. But it was really fast. I would just shift it over and shift it back. I think I had I think I'm going to butcher this, but I think it was a Vertigate. So like to get it in first gear, I had to lift a handle to put it in first gear. But when I came back to second, it went straight back to second, and then it went straight to third, and then I had to come back over to fourth.
You don't have
And
to
I
move
had a
the
little
shifter on
button.
the Vertigate. You just move them back and forth on the Vertigate.
I think that's what it was. It was a Vertigate. Yeah, but to get it in first, I had to lift a handle, and then to put it in the reverse, I think it was a lever. So that's a long time ago. But if you're going to be doing a nitrous on a 4-speed, I would recommend at least this point put it on a button. That way you can control it. Once I got over that 150 number, I was telling Dallas that this was before progressive systems. I literally was sitting there thumbing it as fast as I could go, and it was like a little Delrin. It was like a little Dead and Bear button because it was 200 kit, and if you hit it all at one time, it would just I would knock the tires off in second. So I was like feathering it like that. So
I would get there is you can get a brake light switch. If you have a hydraulic clutch, you can get a brake light switch
oh yeah,
that will cut out your ignition when you touch the clutch. That's the one thing that I would put because that's what the 5-liter Ford guys are running. If you've ever listened to a good 5-liter Ford car when it's like a stick car that's like really fast 8.2 deck stuff like 302, they wind them up, dump the clutch, spray the nitrous, and then you'll hear it go whoop-ah! And then that's because it's killing the ignition and the nitrous at the same time when you push in that clutch pedal.
okay.
And
So
then
kill both of them.
right. And then when you let it back out, that's when you get the pop because the ignition and the nitrous will come back on.
Okay, so that way you don't have to use the clutch. Okay, so that way it shifts into gear easier. Okay, it makes sense. Yeah, see, I didn't have that. Mine was just a button, and I wasn't killing the ignition or anything. I literally I was holding it to the floor and just power shifting it, but it was an 833. So It gave a little grindy noises sometimes, but it just did its thing. But I like Dallas's better. If you're going to do that nowadays, that sounds like the way to do it.
Yeah, just kill the ignition and the nitrous. But I think it would be God. I'm afraid to put nitrous on a stick car. I really am.
Well, that's why. Me too. And that's why I put it on the button, because that way I can control it.
That would be, I think, probably better.
Yeah, and I like that control, because I really like that control, because that way I could flutter it and I could play with it and run it, and I didn't have any problems with it like that.
Val 360 says, "I'll help you with the Ute, Dallas, but it probably won't be cheap." Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's not what I want to look at then. Yeah, but why don't you check it out and see what it would cost to ship it over here to the U.S. and maybe we can make that work. But I think that would be cool, because there's so few of those here, right? Like, there's so few. I would love to have one, and I'd put the Cadillac front end on it or something dumb. Make it a Buick front end. I don't know. But it's cool. It's got 3,800. You could not get that here unless it was a Camaro or a Firebird. And the Camaro and the Firebird was the least practical vehicle to have it in. I mean, it's a pretty good – if you're just wanting to drive somewhere and have a rear-wheel drive car that got good mileage and ran for a long time, sure, that was fine. But a Camaro and a Firebird, those generation, you're like laying down in the car.
Yeah.
And there's no room for anybody to sit in the back. You can never put anybody in the back unless they were like – I guess you could be an Uber for amputees. If they had no legs, they were fine.
Right.
Yeah. But other than that back seat was useless.
100%.
And then you couldn't put anything in the back because they lifted the deck so high up in those cars with the window closed. If you put anything bigger than, like, I don't know, a bag of groceries in there, it would break the window. And they were impractical, stupid cars. That 3800 and 4060E combo probably would have been better served in the S10 and GMC Sonoma platform.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, I got to go because I got to roll. I got to drive all the way across town, and I got 1 hour to be there. So
take it easy, man.
I'll see you all next Wednesday. I'll let you know how it goes.
All right.
Yeah, I'm out.
See you later. All right, so it's just me now. So Vinci Venture Drive says, I'm thinking about doing a nitrous on my Scamp for the 4-speed. I'm thinking just a 100-shot, but that sounds exactly what I was thinking. If you're going to do it, at least start with a 100-shot, but at least do up to a 150-shot. Make it worth your while. And make sure that, even at that level, I still would at least say run a dedicated fuel system. You don't have to, but I'm telling you, nitrous is addictive. Me and Dallas have said this many times before. You're always going to want more. So if you're going to do it, just put a 1-gallon cell, a small, simple little fuel pump, a small regulator, and that way when you decide to step it up, it's easy to step up. And then this way, too, you can run a different fuel. You can still run the engine on 93 or whatever you're doing, 110. And that way you can put in the 116 or the C23 on the nitrous side. I always try to run at least a C23, even if I'm running a small amount of nitrous. This eliminates any possibility of detonation or anything, and it runs really well. And it gives you a really good plug rating too. So that way you can make sure that you're right on your tune-up. It works well. And then Tanner's saying, oh, I'm sorry, he said, S10 got you worried? I don't think so. I think he just wants to give it a go. Yeah, just wants to, have at it. So. And then Tanner's saying right back, not a chance. He's thinking about toying with the big boys around town. I'm telling you, I had so much more fun with nitrous. And I've said this so many times. When my car ran 13s, 12s, and then I put 150 on it, and it was like, low 11s, high 10s. I had more fun with the Cookie Monster when it was doing that than I ever did when it was really fast. Because I could be on the road, and it sounded like a hot rod. And then somebody would pull up and whatnot, and I'd have a little nitrous juice on it, and I would just shock them, and they were just like, "Holy crap, that car really moves out!" And the thing about it too is that if you hit it early enough, and then you get that acceleration on them, and then now you're accelerating away from them, they have to make it up. They usually can't at that point. So it's just fun. It's just a lot of fun. Dizzy's saying he put a master switch on the dash and a slave to it on the carb, and that hits at full throttle. That works now. Well, that's good. Yeah. That's one way to do it. And that saves your engine. Also, too, another way to do it is not sure how much nitrous you can be running, but if you run, like, say, a cutoff on there too, when I'm in the lanes, I'll turn the valve on in the back, close the hood, the deck lid, and then I have a valve after my burnout, and then I do my rev, then I open up the nitrous so that way there's not a bunch of nitrous sitting against the solenoid. The worst thing you can do is start up your car with a leaky solenoid valve. That's because that's 900 pounds sitting against your solenoid. So try not to do that if you can, or some way to do it, or get a bottle opener. We have bottle openers, automatic ones. I know Fast does. So they work really good. Yeah, I agree with you, Dallas. Good luck. Save this question here for Dallas because he's all about that Buick V6. He loves them. And I don't know if they're front wheel drive or rear wheel drive because I never really followed all the bunch of that. It's a Shane show. Well, it's Dallas and I show because if one of us ever something happened to us, the show's over with because it's a team between him and I. I'll do it, a little bit here and there. If there's only like 20 minutes, I have no problem doing that, but it works well when there's both of us here. Let's see here. The F bodies had them GM 3800s for a few years. Yeah, I still think Dallas should really put a Buick V6 in his S10 or get rid of that S10 and then get like a Blazer, so it's the same thing, but he's got a shell on the back, gives a little bit more room, might get a little better mileage. I don't know. I think that'd be really fun. Vinci says, I've started my satellite with a leaky solenoid. It was a lot of fun in the school parking lot. Yes, and it hits really hard, and it's really loud. And typically, you bend the throttle blades on your carburetor the wrong direction, depending on the hit size and how long it's been leaking. But yeah, it's not good. Yeah, I'm with this on Andrew. Nitrous is addictive. Yes, it is because it's such the easy button, and it works so well for how little cost. Now with nitrous, it's cheap to buy. You pay for it in the long run, and then if you get greedy, you pay for it in the long run really big because you have lots of problems. But if you keep it under control and your number, like I have no desire to go any faster than in the 540s, 550s, 540s. I don't want a funny car cage. I don't care to go any faster than 850s. I've already done it. I've been there. I have no desire. In fact, I think my next cars are going to be quite a bit slower. I want something I can drive to the track like I used to, jack it up, change the tires out. I kind of enjoy that. And me and Dallas have talked about that. It was the most fun I ever had. And it'd be really fun to go back to that. Better hope you stay healthy. They get a sketchy guest to fill in on occasion. Yes, that sketchy guest is Mr. John Wilburn, right? So, but John, I work well with John too, so I like having John. He's give him a round of applause to Mr. John because he's always the man. In fact, when Dallas was not feeling well there for a little bit, John filled in for a few months, and it was awesome. So thank you, appreciate it, John. So here he goes. I've always been not drawn to nitrous just because you have to refill the tank. Yes, but here's the thing: is that if you're in the 100 to 150 shot on a 10-pound bottle, and you're running, say, the quarter mile, you can usually get 6 or 7 runs out of that. And most eighth miles, you can have a lot of fun on a 10-pound bottle with 100 to 150 shot of nitrous. And then if you put a 15-pound bottle back there, and even 2 of them, you can go a long, long ways. Because most people, you're gonna hammer them right off the bat, and they're gonna want no part of it. And it's I'm like with Dallas. Dallas was telling a story a little while back where he was in a drive-through parking lot. He purged up the nitrous and did a massive nitrous burnout right there in the parking lot. I've done the same thing right there. Yeah, it's just fun. Yeah, so I want to get back to having fun with cars again. And having a really, really fast car is not really having fun with cars. It's not, towing it there, getting it all ready, doing all this other. It's just not as much fun. at least at this where I'm at now at my age. And I think I was telling John about this. I think last week is that every 15 minutes of runtime, it's about an hour to hour and a half of work on the car. Just is checking bolts, checking spark plugs, checking. There's just a lot of little maintenance stuff that you have to do when you're at that level of performance on nitrous. Turbo car probably not so much, but there's a lot of money invested at that point. So I want something that there's more fun and less work rather than, a lot of work, some fun, but I'm going to go back to this. The hot crazy matrix. I want the hot crazy matrix to be really fun, not much work. So, I know we're getting down to the last 5 minutes here, so I'll kind of go through these here real quick. I really don't want a car that's any faster than maybe mid-10s. I just want to drive around, hot rod, make smile. Then when I let off the clutch, oh yeah, it has to have a 4-speed. I agree. In fact, the whole reason why I always kind of gave up on Plan Z, I just have no draw on it right now. I want to put a 4-speed or a manual back into the green car. I'm going to put a manual into my 68 Dart. Well, actually, my 68 Dart, you guys don't know much about that. It's the very first car I started when I was going to No Name Nationals for this. I was rushing on that, and it's the dream build I've always wanted, so I'm going to slow down on it. But it's got a Gen 3 Hemi, TKX transmission. It's going to be fun, and that's the whole thing. Is I want it fun, and I want to be able to drive it from here to Dallas, hot rod, and I want to have fun with that again. And that's what I want. I don't care. If it runs 12s is what it runs, but you know what? I'm just going to have, I want to go out and do the mile with it, top end mile, do some like Silver State Classic stuff with it. It'd be fun. Mean Street Motors. I should have all the drill bits for my Oling mods on the 318. Hopefully I won't mess it up. Do I need to drill the cast iron dry, or do you recommend lubricating? No, cast iron drills really easily because it's self-lubricating. Just go slow. Don't add pressure. Let the tool do the work, because when you're drilling into it, especially after you've already made a pilot hole, start with a small pilot hole, like an 1/8 inch, brand new drill bit. Once you drill the pilot hole, the next drill bits that you go through, step them up slowly. It literally just self-guides itself in. It literally just wants to pull itself in there. And it goes really easily. And you don't need a high speed. Go low speed on cast iron because it's super hard and brittle, but it cuts really easily. Make sure the bits are sharp and go slow. That's one thing I could tell you. Do some practice pieces if you can, if you got somewhere else, and just see how well it drills. And after you already drilled the pilot hole, it goes really easy. Dizzy, I've got an analyst kit that I've got. Other squirters, it's a variable of 50 to 250 shot. I read a lot and settled on the 150 to start. I would actually start at a 100 personally, because on 100 you can really make a lot of mistakes and doesn't hurt anything. 150 is where it starts getting a little serious. 200 is where it gets really serious. I personally would start at 100. And on 100, you don't need to pull out a lot of timing. They recommend 4 degrees for that. I would start with 4, and then that way you can see how your engine responds. You can back it in, take out 3, then you add and see the 2, and then see where the heat ring's at, and then go from there. And then that way you'll know when you go to the 150, you'll have some information, because you can really damage some things in there. After that, we're getting close here to the time here. So yeah, Mohawk 62. I'm glad you're doing better. Had a great night, everyone. Thanks for live. Shane Dallas, yes, I'll let Dallas know that. I talk to him every morning. Actually, no, tomorrow not, because he's on sleep study. And with that, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be dropping a video of the WAF racing. So me and Cash drove up there in the green car. A bunch of shenanigans happened, and we walked around the shop, a little hangout, and then drove back. And then I kind of gave you a little teaser of what I'm going to be doing. And that should be dropping on Saturday. Once again, I stopped making videos for a while because there wasn't any fun. And I wanted to put up a couple of videos that were fun with my daughter eating some weird shit and kind of go from there. But yeah, I just want to make this fun for myself. See, is there anything last year? Don't forget to like this live for those who haven't. Yes, and also don't forget, go see Mr. John Wilburn on his channel, 7 Central on John Wilburn. He's the bringer of the No Name Nationals, the person who made this all relative for all of us. Without him, there wouldn't be such channels like Nivlock 57, or there probably would be, but they probably be where they're at. Just Mopar Joe, Andy, Unity Garage, and you wouldn't have this show here. You wouldn't have this to come and see me in Dallas every Wednesday night, you know. But yeah, go check him out and on his channel. And there's always Buff and Kim. They seem to go live all the time, and it was cool to see them. So, and he says, oh, he actually here. John's he says he'll be live from an exciting remote location on Friday. So there you go. So go and check him out. And with that, you guys have a great week. We'll see you guys next week. And thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you guys later. All right. Have a good week.